So, I was thinking about this topic in my head for a while, right? So I decided to make a video about it because I think it can really be helpful to a lot of people who are maybe just starting out with drawing and art in general, or even some more experienced people and artists. You might find some value in this video. So I was thinking about digital art and digital drawing versus traditional and like using pen and paper, things like that, just things that are not digital and you do it like in the physical world rather than in the digital one. And I was thinking about the difference between the two of them, and I always see these videos like traditional versus digital, which one is better to get into when you're starting out, and stuff like that. And so I wanted to give my 2 cents on it, seeing that I think I've kind of been on both sides of the spectrum, and maybe my journey will interest some of you guys. So I personally think that to learn draftsmanship and to learn to draw, it's very crucial that you at least do half of your training traditionally. And here's why. So I started out almost completely as a digital artist at the beginning. And I started obviously as well doing some traditional. People do it when they're kids and when they're young and stuff like that. But I never really trained much as a kid or as a young adult. So when I started training seriously in drawing, I found myself that I was kind of lagging behind, or not being able to do the stuff that I could do digitally while on doing it with pencil and paper or traditionally. And that kind of bugged me, and it kind of threw me off the game because I felt like, well, I don't want to do shit work, so I'm just gonna do everything digitally, right? I'm not gonna do anything traditionally. Plus, if you're working for clients and you get some commissions and stuff like that, they're never gonna ask you, in the modern world at least, they're never gonna ask you for traditional work unless you're doing traditional commissions, but that's another thing. So I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna train traditionally. But I think back then it hindered a lot my progress. And actually, when I started training traditionally, I kind of forced myself to do it. My growth, like my art gains, went completely off the rails. And then I got really good really quickly. Well, actually, I'm not good, but I got better way faster than if I was just doing everything traditionally, because I think there's a lot of skills that you can do digitally, but the way you train them traditionally, like they're better for you to train like that way, because it's like harder to do it, and so the difficulty of it makes you want to focus more and try harder and put more time into it. And plus, just there's some gestures that you just cannot do digitally, or like train as well digitally. I'm gonna give you some examples. So first I wanna, well, obviously we're on Photoshop right now, like, which is very ironic. But I'm gonna explain what I mean by traditional is. I'm not saying it's harder, but there's definitely some nuances. I mean, obviously, when you're doing digital work, you have the barrier of entry is knowing the software. It's like a medium, digital art is a medium, and like pencil, like graphite is a medium, charcoal is a medium. So each of the mediums has its own learning curve. But for draftsmanship, just in general, like learning how to draw, there are some stuff that digital obviously makes it way easier. For example, if I just do a stroke and I don't like the stroke, I can just Ctrl Z, right? It's very easy. And then boom, it's like there is no mark on the paper. When you train traditionally, it leaves a mark. And if you just went too hard with the mark, then it's gonna leave a trace and you can't erase it. And so you either throw the paper away, or you're just gonna have a messier drawing, right? Or stuff like, all the digital stuff, like if you just do some shapes here, and maybe I wanna change this, Ctrl T, just move this around. Well, I'm just painting on the same layer, but actually if I were to do this properly, make a new layer. And I just draw some shapes, and maybe I want to change this. Take this here. You know, maybe I want to scale it. Let's get it like this, and it's gonna be so much easier. Like, you can't really take this in traditionally and move it here, right? And the reason it's better to do it traditionally and not being able to do this, it's because when something is harder, you're gonna learn more from it. Because you can't, while you're training traditionally, for example, maybe you're doing some figure studies, you can't just be like, oh, that's an arm, and be like, you know, just do some shapes, and they're like you just completely messed up the paper. Like, the white of the paper is messed up because you can't really completely erase it unless you're like going very light with a very hard pencil. It's like super hard to get the traces out. And so you just mess up the paper, and then if you keep messing up, you know, the drawing is gonna look very bad in the end. So you really, every stroke needs to be very, very like focused and intentional. Like, and it's gonna slow down your drawing, and slowing down your drawing makes it so that you can observe the reference better and more, and you're actually gonna make less mistakes, because when you're just going digitally, maybe you're used to going faster, which is not necessarily I mean, going fast is not a bad thing, but going fast without intention is a bad thing. So if you just quickly look at the reference and you go like this, okay, this is the shape that I see, this is the shape that I see, you know, box here, box there, you're not gonna really be observing and absorbing as much of the information, and the drawing is not gonna look as accurate. Well, if you are thinking about every single stroke and just looking at the reference and measuring everything correctly, then slowing down the drawing is gonna help you absorb the information better. That's the first thing. Like, the fact that just digitally in general is easier will in some ways hinder your ability to absorb and train and be a better draftsman in the end. Another thing is just the tool, so the pencil. So, I mean, digital stylus, I've got one right here. They got them really, really good. I mean, you can see that you have pen pressure, and you just go down as hard as you can, and you have like billions and billions of levels of pen pressure, I don't even know. And then some of them you also, with some brushes, you can tilt the brush, so it like kind of simulates you tilting the brush of the pencil on the side of the paper, so it makes different stroke variations and size and stuff like that. Also, the size changes just like it does in real life, like this. Not only the opacity, but also the size of the stroke. So you can like taper a line like this, you know, thick to thin, like that, just like you can do in real life. And I'm just using the normal, like the standard round brush that you find in Photoshop. But the way I actually personally learn how to do all this stuff digitally is training traditionally. Because before, when I only did digital work, I didn't really think about my lines. Because like in digital, it's very hard to like build up a line. For example, if I do a taper stroke here, and maybe I just want to make it dark, it's like very easy for me like this to like build a line like that, and then like carve it like exactly how I want it. And traditionally, obviously you can build lines traditionally, but it's way harder because you can see the texture of the pencil every stroke you do. It's not like just pixels that are going darker. You can see like the stroke, the mark that it makes on the paper. If you go too hard, it actually makes like an indent in the paper, right? So it's very hard to, like, it's harder to build strokes traditionally than digitally. And so, for example, traditionally, you're gonna start learning, okay, I can actually vary my line weight, just not just building the line, but just varying my line weight while I do the strokes. For example, I'm gonna do thick to thin like this, make a nice taper stroke. Or maybe right away maybe you're doing a quick gesture and you're purposely gonna go lighter on one part and then darker on the other. Okay, that's a bit too much, but just to like make maybe the other part is in shadow, so you want to make the line thicker or something like that. And you're gonna start thinking about those decisions traditionally, and at a certain point while you train doing those, they're gonna start to become automatic, and it's gonna automatically transfer in digital. So now that I trained a bit more traditionally, it's way easier for me to just think about, okay, like first of all, how big is my brush, and then what kind of pressure do I want to apply on the stroke. So for example, if I'm painting, maybe when I glaze something on top of my paint, of the color that I have, I'm gonna go really, really light, right? I'm just gonna do like this, okay? And I'm not even gonna like put my opacity down. because now I can control my pen way better. Or for example, if I'm just drawing, I'm gonna be like, okay, I want to be thin here, thin line here, and then I'm gonna thicker line over there, and then just build the line this way and stuff like that. So that's another thing. And then also it's gonna, if you train traditional, you're gonna care about your materials way more. So for example, like you're gonna be, when you get into a drawing space, like mentally and physically, there's gonna be way more things that you need to worry about. So to start doing digital work, you need a tablet, any kind, and then you need a software, right? Now there's differences in tablets and software, yes, but they basically do the same thing. Like me drawing here, you can't really tell if I have a Wacom XP pen. Probably you can't even tell if I have a graphic tablet or a screen tablet or stuff like that. And then if I just covered up the entire user interface, you probably wouldn't even notice what software I was using, either Photoshop, Krita, or Clip Studio Paint or whatever. But there's so much more variation and different types of materials while doing traditional work that every single decision, every single material you use is gonna kind of make a difference. So, for example, just types of pencil, obviously you can tell the difference between a charcoal and a graphite, and you can also, if you're trained, you can tell the difference between, you can know what hardness the pencil is, and then from the texture of the paper, you can tell what kind of paper it is, and all those small decisions are gonna influence the way your artwork is gonna come out in the end. And only that, when you're really trained and really know what you're talking about, you can also tell the difference between the makers of the pencils. So all these decisions are compounded in you being more mindful and aware of being more careful about the artwork, and it's gonna transfer on digital, because then you're thinking about stuff and caring about the art so much more, and it's gonna turn out automatically better. Like for example, maybe you're thinking before going into digital painting, like the size of the canvas, because you can resize the canvas whenever you want, right? You just go like this, and you just double it here and double it here, and now boom, you have double the canvas. You unlock this, and then boom, then you have double the canvas. But you can't do that traditionally, So like the canvas or the size of your paper, you have to choose it before you start drawing, and it's gonna make a really big impact, because if you choose too small of a paper, you wanna make a really intricate portrait rendering with pencil, you're not gonna have enough resolution to finish it or to be as detailed as you want, right? So you need a bigger paper. Stuff like this. So you're just gonna be more mindful and caring about the art that you're gonna make, and so it's gonna transfer to digital, and the artwork in general will turn out much better. Also, another thing, you need to care about your tools. Like, okay, digital, you need to care about the tools, sure, but they're not really, okay, you change the point on your stylus, and that's pretty much it. And then maybe you change the tablet once in a while, because you either break it or you wanted a new one. But with tools, for example, with pencils, you have to care for them. If you sharpen them in a particular way with like a razor blade and you have the long point, you need to not put them with other tools, because the point may break and then they smudge everywhere, and then you're gonna get a mess on your desk. And then paper, depending on the type of paper that you have, you need to put them, store them in a certain place. Like for example, newsprint, it needs to get out of sunlight, because it's gonna wrinkle and yellow very fast. And like if you don't if you don't spray fixative on your charcoal or graphite, is gonna smudge another paper. So you put a charcoal drawing on top of another charcoal drawing without fixative, they're gonna smudge on each other, and they're gonna ruin both of the paper. So you need to be careful about where you place them. And then also when you draw, like you need to be careful about your hand. If you smudge your hand through a charcoal drawing, you're gonna get charcoal powder or just charcoal, debris and lines all over your paper, and it's gonna make a complete mess. And it's not necessary, you can't necessarily erase it out, right? Same thing with graphite. And then when you get into paints, it's like a whole other dimension, because now like a splash of paint, not only on your canvas or just in your room, will make a lot of damage, more than graphite, like more than pencil. So all these barriers will make it more harder for you to train, so you focus more, and you focus more, you care about your tools more, you care about the canvas that you're working on or the paper that you're working on, and so it's gonna all turn out for you to train harder and make a better piece at the end. And at least that's what I found out, because I couldn't really draw traditionally. I couldn't draw digitally, but my digital skills were higher than my traditionals. But when I started training really hard traditionally, then everything leveled up like way faster than if I just kept doing digitally. And I think I'm not saying that traditional is better. I'm not saying that digital is better. I'm just saying that if you wanna be a full around artist, you need to be able to do both. And then when it comes to your personal work, obviously you can choose the medium. And with client work, you're probably gonna do digitally because that's just how the world works. So, but I'm just talking about the training part, your studies, learning draftsmanship and stuff like that, anatomy studies, figure drawing, all the academic things. And then the final piece, I mean, I love traditional. I do pieces in traditional as well. Because it's more, for me, it's very fun to do it. I do digital, of course, as well. But I found it very fun and meditative to do, to finish artworks traditionally. And I just have a lot of fun with it. I think I find it a bit more fun to do it traditionally, but obviously I love digital as well. So another point that I want to raise is that it's way easier, in my opinion, to get into traditional than digital. Now, these days, I mean, if you're watching this, you have to have at least a phone, okay? And there's digital painting apps on your phone. And then the cheapest tab, you can probably get a cheap tablet for like $30, like $30 or whatever you live, 30 euros. So you pair the device that you're watching this video on with a cheap tablet, and so basically you're just paying the tablet, and that's pretty much it for tools with digital. So it's pretty affordable. But let's say you don't wanna, like, you're not a psycho and you don't wanna paint you don't want to build your entire career if you're serious about this. I'm talking more to like a more serious audience that maybe wants to be either a high-end hobbyist or like a working professional. If you want to take your career to the next level, you probably not wanna work on your phone as like your screen. So you're probably wanna be working on at least a laptop. So if you don't have that, that's gonna be to run Photoshop decently, probably at least $400. I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe you can go cheaper, but it's gonna be a kind of a big upfront cost, and then you're gonna be buying a tablet, right? And obviously it's completely upfront cost, because then it's gonna pay for itself because you don't really have to change anything else for like years at least. So it is pretty reasonable to get into, but that's still like a $500 upfront at least if you want to be serious and be a working professional. So that's a big chunk of money if you don't already have the tools. As far as traditional, like to get into DAO, if any of your family members have ever attended school, you probably have all the materials you need. Now we can get into materials a bit later. Like explain maybe people that don't know what they're doing, what thing they might be interested in buying if you're a bit more serious. But every household pretty much has everything you need to start to draw traditionally. And so I think personally, also you're more used to you don't have to learn the software. You're more used to using a pencil or a pen from school or just growing up. So that's also a bonus. And you don't have to get bogged down in all the finding the right software and paying Photoshop license and learning the software and stuff like that. You can just get it straight into drawing, which is the important thing. Because you don't really, I mean, as far as Photoshop goes, you don't really have to learn the software a whole lot to start like training your draftsmanship skills and your drawing skills. So I think it's way easier to get into. And something that I struggled with is like digital won't save you. Like if you can't make a good drawing on pencil, it won't turn out good on digital, So it's not like you can't take it like the safe way out, digital, because it just isn't. I mean, obviously you have your advantages, but like your skills are your skills. So if you can't make something look good on paper, then it won't look on digital. It's not like a magic trick. You still have to learn how to draw. So I don't know how long this video is. I don't even know how to check. I'll be recording for 20 minutes, so it's gonna be a semi-decent long video. But quickly, I want to get into how maybe someone that is starting out and is serious about getting better at drawing and draftsmanship and art in general, or maybe you just enjoy drawing and you want to get a bit more serious about it. Because I'm not really talking to the people that just only draw for fun, like you used to do in school or when you were a kid, because those people can just have fun doing whatever they want. Like if you just want to stick your hand into a bucket of paint and smear it all over like a canvas or a piece of paper, you can, if you have fun doing that, then be my guest. But I'm talking to the people that are interested in either working as an artist or just getting really, really good as far as draftsmanship and drawing. So if you're that kind of person, and maybe you've been a digital artist or you're just starting out in general as an artist, and you don't really know what you're doing and maybe what materials you want to do if you want to start drawing traditionally, I would recommend the first thing it's just pencil and paper. Like that's the easiest thing to get into and the easiest thing to start training right away. So people get very confused. I used to be confused as well about what kind of pencils there are. Now, pencil isn't really a medium. Well, it is, but the lead that's inside the pencil, so the thing that actually you draw with, like the gray piece of lead that's inside the pencil, that's the actual medium. Because there are charcoal pencils, which the lead is made of charcoal, and then there's graphite pencils, which is the common pencil that you probably use at school, which is made of graphite, which is a completely different thing. Like they do, the texture is different. The charcoal is more black, and you can't really erase it as well. There's it's like a different medium. It's a different way of drawing. So they do different things. But the nomenclature and the way they're categorized is the same thing. It's the same way. So the range is this. It goes from 9H to 9B. Right, and this is like a gradient, a range, right? So it goes 9H to H, and then it goes FHB, and then B to 9B. So basically, what this means, H is hard, and B, actually I don't know what B is. It probably stands for black, but it's basically telling you how hard or soft the lead is. So 9B is the softest, and 9H is the hardest. Now, what does that mean? It means that when you put on your stroke with a hard pencil, less debris and less lead, less powder is gonna stick on the paper. So the line will be lighter. So a really, really soft pencil like a 7B, when you put down the line, is gonna be very, very black instantly. If you put it down with a 4H, it's gonna be extremely light gray, like the same pressure. Right, and also H pencils, like you almost never have to sharpen them, because it takes so long to get the point down, because like so little debris and so little marks and so little graphite is being used every mark, because they're so hard, right? So a pencil, like even like a 2B, after 5 minutes of drawing, you have to resharpen it, because it's so soft compared to the hard pencils. So the F is like in the middle. F and HB are like the in betweens. They're kind of the same. Sorry, F and HB are kind of the same pencil. But I've never really seen F, at least in my country. I'm from Italy, but I don't know in your countries. I always see HB, which is basically the same type of pencil. And for you Americans out there, that's a number 2, right? Now I know you have a different thing. You can see that the conversion here. So a 0 is like a 2B, a 1 is a B. But if you go to an art store and use and you buy European branded pencils, like I think Faber-Castell and Staedtler, they're all gonna be named like this. So don't worry, if you go to an art store or your local store, it's gonna probably be named like this. So if any member of your family has ever attended high school in general, you're probably going to be absolutely filled to the brim with HB pencils like I am. I have like 50 or something like that. So, and that's actually where I would start. I would start with either HB. Like, let's say that you have zero pencils at home and you want to buy your first pencils. I would get a few HBs or Bs. Like, I would stay in this range. I would honestly just try them out, maybe buy a couple of each and see the difference and see what you like more, because you're also gonna use them for different things. I wouldn't go higher than 4B unless you're experimenting. No, I haven't really seen a 9B in person. I know you can buy it, but I never tried one. I think that I don't know which one I've tried, like the softest pencil that I've tried. But I wouldn't go higher than 4 or 5B. I wouldn't go higher than 4B because big. Like when you're starting out, there's no point. And I also wouldn't go lower than 4H. Now I've tried I have a 3H and I have a 2H. I don't have a 4H, but even the 3H is like very very hard. I mean, going lower than 4H, we're getting into like technical pencils and like pencils that architects use for like architectural renderings and stuff like that. Where you have to be really really soft and you can really erase the strokes and you can build multiple strokes on top of each other and have different lines that have different like levels of gray so that they make sense. You know, very technical stuff. I mean, lower than 4H for drawing, yeah, you can, but starting out, I wouldn't really go lower than 4H. So I would get maybe a couple HPs, a couple Bs, and you see the difference. And then maybe you can get a 2H and like a 3B, so that you have a good range. But if you have just to buy one HP or B, one of these two, that's for like that. You'll be good for a while before you change, because they're soft enough. They're soft enough so that you can get a pretty decent level of black. You can see this is the black that's you're probably gonna get like going really really hard with the pencil, and that's a pretty decent level of black. And it's not charcoal, but for a graphite it's pretty good. And also you can go really really light and get a really really light gray, so it's like a perfect in between. You can see it up here as well, but it's like a bit harder to see. So yeah, I wouldn't go higher than 4B. HB or B, it's perfect. Now, as far as paper goes, that's another question that it gets asked a lot. Honestly, if you have this printer paper, it's super cheap. You can get like $50. You can get like in my country at least 50 euros. You get 5,000 sheets. It's gonna last you. I don't even know. I don't even know if I've used in my life 5,000 sheets. Like you get a lot of paper. It's like super cheap, and you don't really have to. I mean, for training, it's perfect because you can just throw it away and don't care. Like for academic studies and like getting better and stuff, it's perfect printer paper. I use it all the time for like maybe quick thumbnails or sketches or practicing my line and stuff like that. So that's perfect. Now, if you wanna make a bigger drawing, maybe you get a bit more skilled, you want to do a bigger drawing, more complicated drawing, you want to maybe invest and buy a bit better paper, because this won't store as much and it's just very cheap. And then if you accidentally fold it, it's gonna keep the mark of the fold like forever, and it's just not very professional if you want to make a good drawing. So if you wanna increase your paper budget and buy better paper, I mean, you can go to your local store and ask the guy working there. He probably can direct you the right path. I mean, I would just probably just start experimenting with a lot of different types of paper. We can get into paper maybe in another video, but not right now, not for beginners. But usually the way you judge the quality and how durable the paper is the paper weight. So for example, printer paper, I think it's about the basic one is like 80 grams per meter squared. And that's very very light. It's not newsprint, but it's very very light paper. So if you get like good drawing paper, it's gonna be like 200 plus grams. So it's gonna be very very thick and it's gonna last a long time. But I don't really want to get into types of paper, so just experiment if you want to make bigger drawing or ask your local store for advice. And then as far as eraser goes, I personally love knitted erasers. I used to just in school, I used to just chuck them at people because I thought that's what they were made to do. But actually, they're extremely useful because you can put them in whatever kind of form you want, and so you can get very precise at erasing, and they don't leave the eraser poop like when you use normal rubber erasers. It just leaves like a mess, and this don't do that because they're sticky, and they, you know, the graphite powder gets stuck on the eraser. And it's also very easy to clean them because you just knead them. Like you just, I have one in my hands right now, but you can see them. I know you can see them, but it's just like I don't know. You just work it. Like you just try to pull it apart and put it back together, and it's gonna clean itself because the graphite is gonna like be stuck in between all the little parts of this knitted eraser. Is gonna be cleaned very easily. While the normal rubber like this one, to clean it you have like either rub it really hard on another piece of paper, or like go to the bathroom and like clean it with water and soap and like scrub it, and they get really dirty. I personally love knitted erasers, but if you have this at home and don't want to buy it, if you have normal rubbers, then that's erasers, that's absolutely fine to start out. So this is what I would recommend, and this is the reasons why I think that everyone should train traditionally, and doing at least 50%, if not more, of your studies, academic studies, traditionally, especially if you want to learn to be a better draftsman and to be better at drawing. So that's pretty much it. This has been a really long video, 31 minutes. I won't edit this because I'm lazy. Maybe I'll do another one. Okay, bye bye.